If you follow tech news, you may have seen this weird symbol. What does it mean? How should we interpret it? And most importantly, could this be a threat to the iPhone? And why is a mainly Apple-themed channel talking about something that is not related to Apple, even though it kind of is, but more on that later. Let me explain. This is Nothing. Yeah, that's the name. A tech startup funded by X1+ co-founder Carl Pei, with the stated mission of bringing more innovation to consumer technology alongside creating a good alternative to Apple and its ecosystem. After all the hype they had built up, they held their first presentation where they announced nothing. Kinda. They basically revealed that they are working on a smartphone, showed some of its UI, and this. Okay, so everyone already figured out that it's pretty likely that what we're seeing right now is some sort of a silhouette of the phone's back. Their entire visual identity is built around this idea of exposing the insides of products, and it's all very industrial looking in a way. If we assume this theme will continue, it's easy to imagine that those weird symbols could be some of the details that will be visible on the phone's back. And that's where the analysis should realistically stop. But have you seen what they do on this channel? So, using every bit of information we have about Nothing's design system, and every little hint they gave us that I could find, including obviously this hieroglyph here, let's try to predict how this phone will look like. Okay, first thing, this is definitely the camera. Considering where it's placed on the imaginary smartphone back, and also that there's no other component that could have a similar shape, I'm pretty sure it's the camera. In a video on their YouTube channel, the same one where before announcing the phone even exists, their head of design reacts to some concepts of an hypothetical Nothing phone. He also asks whether the phones actually need all those cameras in the first place. It would definitely make sense for this phone's camera to not look as ridiculous as the competition's. Next is this G-shaped thing in the middle. Considering its position and shape, my guess is that it could be something like the iPhone's MagSafe. Their earbuds support wireless charging. I can't think of a good reason why the phone shouldn't. Plus, MagSafe in general is a good feature, so why not? They've talked a lot about wanting to create a complete and open ecosystem. If and when the phone becomes more popular, they might even make this non-MagSafe an open standard. Again, why not? Now the real mystery is what are those two lines. My first hypothesis was that the bottom line could have been another part of their non-MagSafe, but this doesn't explain why is it broken down into pieces, and obviously what does the other line represent. But then I noticed something. In the teaser, the two lines always appear together, even when they flash a couple of times. This may sound like a stretch, and it probably is, but what if they are for the logo and the name? The name of the phone even has this little space. Some have suggested the bottom line could signify an headphone jack, but why would they place it in the middle? There's still another very missable detail. This was the invite they used for the event. It actually matches the weird symbol if you overlay one on top of the other. But what's this? There's a black rounded rectangle with the same texture they used for the headphones case. I think it could be a part of the phone's design. For the 1st of April, they teased this incredibly generic looking phone which, surprise surprise, wasn't real. But they also showed this picture, which gives even more credibility to my hypothesis that the other picture is also showing a bit of the hardware. This one is a lot more explicit, and it's showing the thing I theorized to be their version of MagSafe. And it shows just enough for you to understand where it should be placed relative to the symbol they showed at the beginning. It's a puzzle now. Obviously, the concept I'm about to show, it's not meant to predict exactly how the phone will look like. That's impossible, but it can give you an idea, at least. And I'm also going to discuss possible features and other stuff, but now, here's the concept. There's a lot to talk about, but I'll try to make it short, also because I will have to edit the video afterwards. This concept was made before the new image was released, which already shows tons of details I could have never possibly predicted. But it also confirms some of my intuitions, for example wireless charging and the fact that there's so much stuff that's actually covered by this plastic flake. It's plastic, right? And it even follows the form of the MagSafe Nothing edition. The reason why I did this, instead of making it all transparent, is not only because it's a detail that appears on the invite, but also because even the ear ones are like this actually. While trying to apply their design philosophy to a smartphone, something immediately became obvious. The phone's back cannot be made of transparent plastic. Plastic is a lot more prone to scratching than glass, but while for some earbuds case nobody really cares too much, Nobody wants to scratch your phone, and you can't really prevent people from putting a case on it, which I guarantee it's exactly what would happen. If it's just a generic matte case, it hides the unique design. But what if the phone was meant to have a case? In my concept, the transparent part covering the whole back is just a case you can remove at any time. People will use cases, there's no way around it, but by including one and designing the whole phone to have a case by default, you solve both issues. If the case scratches, it's no big deal, as you can just replace it and it definitely won't cost as much as replacing, for example, the back of an iPhone, and you make it a lot more likely that people will use your case, as it's already included. Next, you may have noticed that the volume and power button have switched places. That was definitely a mistake I made, but it made me think about something. If the power button was on the left side, what do you think would change? It would maybe just be a tad less comfortable for right-handed users to press. But on some smartphones, for example the iPhone, the companies designing them have no problem essentially sacrificing the reachability of the volume buttons in its favor. But what do you really use the most? Obviously the power button is necessary for the phone to turn on, but after that, to wake it up, I mainly tap the screen or use raise to wake. Does it even matter if it's a bit less reachable? Now you may be thinking, but how do you lock the phone then? Well, you could have a gesture for that. I'm pretty sure it's definitely possible to make the phone understand when the user is putting it in their pocket, or even just flipping it upside down. That could also be an activator. If this phone is going to have many exclusive features, I'd say if not all, at least the vast majority of them will be software related. Remember that they are still a very young company. I'm not expecting the camera to be incredibly good, for example, but at least a couple of cool software features that don't require messing with the supply chain too much, that's more realistic I think. But I still haven't answered one of the questions from the beginning. Why am I covering this stuff? For now, this company's only real product is a pair of, admittedly, very cool looking earbuds. Everything else is just them promising they will make good stuff. I really hope that's the case. What their CEO said is absolutely true. Tech is definitely getting boring. All the innovation now is just gimmicky features that, when not irrelevant, sometimes make the devices worse in some aspects. And don't even get me started about the design. Everything looks the same. You have Apple and Microsoft, which are very good at crafting this minimalistic aesthetic, and everyone else is just trying to copy them. Nothing is the only other company I can think of which did something completely different. They've built this very unique yet consistent aesthetic, which at the very least shows they do have a greater vision. If this company succeeds in making some good stuff, I think it'll be better for everyone. Also, competition is great. Yeah, the software they showed is a bit rougher on the edges, especially the animations, but it's nothing they can't fix. Even Apple's iOS, after all those versions, is still not perfect. I talked about it in this other concept here. Check it out if you want. Ciao!